Yo, once again, welcome to another video of Lmms series. My name is Arnold, and in today's video, we're gonna be looking at Lmms workflow, and basically for beginners, understanding the different tools and how to start making music from scratch. This video is basically for beginners. It's 2022 and I decided to start with this one. So when you open up Lmms, this is how it's going to look like, and for some guys it's going to be having this beat and bassline editor. I know I did a video about Lmms, but this one is a brand new one, and so I'm gonna start by looking out this top, and this top we have here create new project, and we have create new project from templates. And some people would love to work from templates, that's okay, but for this video I won't be using a template, but you can start with acoustic drum sets where you have here all the drums, and yeah, I won't be using these. And here we do have open existing project, and you can really save it. And there are recent projects, you can really see your recent projects, but I believe if you're starting out with Lmms you won't have recent projects. Here you have save project. Some things are just self-explanatory and you can really work out through smoothly. And the next thing is export current project, but we have no project. I'll be explaining that later in the video. This one you can really turn it on, and you ask Lmms what a current, like what parameters mean. This is the metronome. You can turn it on and turn it off, and here you can hide. You can actually you can open and hide the song editor, and you can open and hide the beat and bassline editor. And this is the piano roll, you can also hide it, the automation track, the mixer right down here. And of course you can open the notes. Maybe you're working in Lmms and you're trying to write a song, you can write as well your lyrics, stuff like that, you know. And the pick controller, of course, I will be explaining that also later on in the video. If it's relevant to some guys, put in the comment section. So right here at the left end, you do have, when you click here, these are the instrument plugins. So it has quite many, but I won't be looking out at everything. I'm just gonna be looking out the best stuff that you can work with to produce sound as far as music production is concerned. So there is the audio file processor, and here you can drag in samples and you chop them up, depends where you put your samples. So that tool is really useful. So in the audio processor, let's say I do have a sample that I want to work with. So usually I know where I save my samples, so I can just maneuver around and I browse them until I find my samples, and then I drag in my sample. So this is a water. You see, it can really produce out sound by clicking onto. So this is where pretty much you can edit, trim around this and this, and I'll be looking at that later in the video. So that's the audio processor for you there. And we do have this, the beat inventor. I don't really use this a lot, but for EDM producers I know this is something that they really work with. Pretty like rage beats. I know guys who make rage beats use this tool, and you can really twist around stuff, draw the wave file how you want it to, you know, stuff like that. So that's the beat invader for you. We do have the Playboy, and this is like the old, if you remember the Blade games that we used to play, this is it tries to emulate those kind of sounds. So if you're looking out for video game soundtracks, you can really go with the Playboy. And this gig player, if you have gig files, you can really load them up and be able to use them. I don't really use gig files because I mean, I use SOUNDFOUNTS, but that's crazy. You can use that. You can, if you have gig files, you can use them. So there is this kicker, you can, and this kicker, you can twist around these knobs and create your own sounds, kick and whatever. That's for you, but you can as well as use it as it is. And there is this one. The LB308, it's the best thing. Pretty self-explanatory with the sound that it brings out. And yeah, and there's this mallet, it's nice. You can bruise a little more sounds here, and yeah, pretty much all these sounds are default for Lmms, besides the sound font player and of course the VST. So the sound font player, SF2 player, is the player where you can load your sound fonts. That is to say, if you downloaded your sound fonts and you want to play them, you can save my sound font. You can load a sound font. Let's say you wanted to launch a guitars. So I do have guitar sound fonts, so I can really load them up like this one, and I play them. So that's the sound font player for you. And the triple oscillator, it is the same as this one. You can twist around with the waveforms and create your own sounds. That is amazing. The VST, I know this is the most used instrument plugin, where you can load external plugins like the guitars, the floats, and each and everything. And I'll be showing you how to install all those plugins and instrument plugins and effects plugins. But pretty much like the sound font player, you just come here and you browse around there. I do have a lot of plugins here. I know for beginners who are starting out, probably they might not be even knowing about the plugins, but yeah, you can load. Now I can load a saxophone because I do have it. So it's an emulation of a saxophone. So those are the instrument plugins, and of course I won't forget the Zine Sub FX. This one also creates sounds from scratch. Like if you're starting out, if if you know how to design sound, you can design sounds. But for that reason, I will go on to my next step that I'm going to be looking at, and that is the presets. So if you make presets, let's say you loaded up Zine Sub FX, you created your own sound, you can save that sound, and that sound will be saved in the presets. So yeah, so here where you save your projects, if you save your projects, they come straight here. And of course you do have some demos. You can load out some demos. Let's say you're starting out, and there are some projects that were done inside here that you can look through and see how things were done. Just probably it might help you speed up your learning, and maybe help you to see how some things are done and some sounds and all that. But yeah, there is a lot going on in that demo. You can go through all those demos if you want, and of course there are tutorials, not much, templates, shorties, pretty much like demos. So that's where you're gonna find your demos. And samples, this is where the Lmms has default samples that were put for you to create. Actually, let me open up a new project. So there are samples that were created for us, the users, to use. The bases are there. So just like the word samples, they are just samples. You can just drag them onto the song editor and be able to make something out of them. The bass loops, and by the way, what I mean is dragging and dropping them onto here, or you can drag them onto the baseline editor right here. So there is a lot. I won't go through each and everything, but you can actually even go to these ones, the piano, and you drag it, so it's like a sample. This one is like a sample player, the audio file processor. I talked about it earlier on. So yeah, you have that sample right there. And yeah, you do have drums, the kicks, the snares, etc, etc. So yeah, those are the sounds that were created for us. If you're starting out for Lmms, and you have to build your own song. So you can also add in your own samples here. I'll be showing you how to add your samples. So here we do have your presets. So Lmms creates some huge bank of presets for you, just to ease you up. As I told you, you can create your own presets through the Zine sub effects, but here they created for you a lot. The bidding vendor, they created. We do have the alien strings. So that preset was made by someone, probably the developers, just for you to use it. The key guide has customized sounds, and all these sounds that will look, all these ones, they created presets for them, so you can breathe through. And of course the link sub effect, they did the same thing, created a huge bank of sounds that you can use, and that is amazing. And these sounds are really high quality sounds, and if you're into EDM, stuff like that, these sounds are really amazing. So here you can browse around. Let's say you saved something onto your desktop, you can go there and you drag it onto your song editor or beat and bassline editor, if that works for you. My computer, you can browse. So the last two, you can just browse around. So yeah, that is the very first part of the Lmms Ultimate Guide 2022. And in the next part, I'm gonna be looking at the song editor. All right, so welcome back to part 2 of the series, and that is the song editor. So here is where everything that you work is put into life. I may say that because let's say let me use a sample, a piano sample that we earlier on. It's right here. You can decide to drag it on the beat and bassline editor, but that's not the workflow I would recommend you. I would recommend you to work each and everything here. This one is nice, but it's just gonna make things complicated later on in the mixing. And if you wanted to change some stuff, it affects in any way. You're not supposed to edit instruments there. It's for drums basically. That's what I can say. So the piano sample, you can, when you click into the audio processor, you can really change a lot of things. So here you do have the how can I say it, the amplifier, pretty much like how much it's gone, the frequency, the intensity, something like that. So if I reduce it, it's definitely gonna be low. So you can see the change here. And this one is like you can chop up let's say you wanted to chop it up, something like that. So it's chopped up. So, and reverse, really like a church organ. This one is like this one is like looping it over and over, and this one is like playing it back and forth, playing it and reversing it at the same time. So that is what they do. And here you can, this white thing, you can twist that. Let's say you want it to play now. So I'm playing in how can I call it? It's a middle octave, so I can move this one and so to some extent it changes the octave, and to some extent it changes the key. So let's say you wanted to tune your sample in a G major. You can really tune that, because basically everything we work with is always tuned in C and O, and that's white notes. So I can really find out that. So if let's say, so just for study purposes, let me load up Gtune, and don't feel bad if you don't have Gtune, because it's an external plugin. So when I press C, it plays C. So that means this sample is tuned in C. And when I move it right here and I press C, it doesn't play C anymore, it plays D. That means I've now tuned my sample into something else. So that's it. That's the use of this white thing. So basically it works when maybe you're working with your 808s and you want to tune them and stuff like that. So when you double click onto the sample that you've created, it actually opens up the piano roll, and the piano roll is where everything happens. When you play your keys, they are recorded, you know. So here at the top you do have play, you do have record, with a playback, and you have pause, you have this draw mode, you do have the erase, select all, automation, quantize, cut, and cancel again. So you do have um the basic thing that you would use is the pencil tool and maybe the automation, but that's like going into the advanced mode. I don't think for beginners you really need that, but here you do have the zoom in and the zoom out. You can zoom in 800 and you can zoom in. So yeah, here you do have the quantize. So the quantize, once you change the quantize, it actually changes the number of, I always call them boxes because that's a box of grid. It's like a graph book, the number of boxes in the boxes in the bar, I would say. So if I put 1/32, you can see the number of boxes in a bar: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So if it is 8 and 8, that is 16, plus this 8 and this 8, you get the math. So if I put 1/16, 1 2 3 4, and 4 plus 4, that is 8, plus 4 and plus 4, you get the math. So that is pretty much the number of boxes that are in the bar, or in whatever you can call it, but this is what this is all about. So I do have here the length of the note. If you play 1/16, it's gonna be stuck there, but if you play it 1/48, it's a different one. So depends on the kind of grid that you've selected. It will really affect this, but you can always switch up depending on the quantize that you've set. So moving on, you can select by pressing here and highlighting, that is selecting all, and you can automate. Let's say you wanted this note. It's more like if you play a guitar and you have a pitch bend, or a piano and you have a pitch bend. So this is like bending notes, you see. So now this note is bent up to around there, up to G. So that's pretty much what it does. The automation, and you can do the automations here too. And you can do automations onto different parameters like the volume and the pan. Just as you see here, there is an automation track. You can just click here and you press Control and you drag the volume here. So in this track, you've automated the volume, so you can adjust and you can switch up here the kind of wave that you want, and yeah, just like this. So you're automating the volume. I can demonstrate this by bringing up let's say I do have a guitar and I can drag here a guitar. Let me remove this real quick. So I'm gonna put here one note, and just like that. So I can automate the volume of the whole track by so I'll put our automation track and I'll put this right here, and I can drag the volume and I put it right here. So I can say during the start of my song, I want sound to start from 0 as it goes towards whichever volume that you set, just like this. And you can see right here the volume is starting from 0 as it goes upwards. So that is automating the volume. And the same with the panning. You can also pan. You can create another automation track and you put your panning. Panning is left and right. You can pan So that is crazy. I mean, right now that this is connected to two, but you can disconnect them all, and you can disconnect the guitar too. And I'm gonna have to do this again. I will reset it to 0, reset the volume to 100. Actually, let me remove this one, so I can press Ctrl and I drag the panning here. So this is the center, and you can pan left, pan right, and when I play, yo, so yeah, that's the panning. Moving on. Alright, so moving on to the next thing, that will be the beat and bassline editor. And I won't do a lot here because I think everything here is just straightforward. So I'm going to create some groove here. Let's say I'm going to put a kick right there, and I'll put maybe a snare, and look for a hi-hat. Okay, so I can use this kicker, and so the BPM is set to 140. That's how fast the song is gonna be moving. So I can say so. With that kind of groove, you can actually that's where you combine each and everything that we've learned from the recent parts of the video, where you can open up the kicker and you edit, maybe the gain is down, the envelope and all this, and you can take time and experiment. And with the kick, you can also use, let's say I'm using this kick, I can turn this off by pressing here and here. So with the other sounds, you can just click here in audio process. Let's say the hi-hat is really punching out, I can maybe reduce the intensity, and I can decide to pan this one on the right. So after you create anything that you want here, you can come up here down, and once you click in the beat and bassline editor, it's going to bring what you've created here, so you can play it here. So it's playing together with what's here, because the song editor combines what you've created here and whatever you have here, and it plays it all together. So whenever you play here, you can always come here and switch up stuff. Let's say you don't like what's going on here, and like you can add maybe something like this, and here it will change to like that. So you can decide to reduce the metronome. You double click and you type in something like 90, and it will be different. Actually, I struggled a lot with the metronome. I mean that I struggled a lot with the tempo and the BPM, not knowing how fast and how slow that song is going to be. And at a certain point, I wanted to quit Lmms, but it's something. So you can add here the beat, and you can add here more patterns, and you go further, but it depends on what you would love. And the good thing here is like you can right click and you can open a piano roll and see here what you're doing actually. And you can switch up. Let's say you see like you can maybe take them up by dragging or pressing shift and taking them up or down, whichever works. So that's what the bass line. And you know, some people actually drag their, let's say I do have a guitar, so actually you can create a new sample beat and drum line editor, and you drag there a guitar and you press here and you open and you create something like that. So when you create something like that, since this is the second time it's happening, you just come here and click. So what I've created here is this one, and the very first pattern, you can actually go back to here 0, and actually some people would prefer naming them and say like drums, and they name this one like guitar. So in that way you can always go back to here and you can switch around to guitar and twist around with all that. That sounds awful, but bear with me. Okay, so that's the beat and the bassline editor, and this one right here is the FX mixer, whereby like if you wanted to mix your track, you can use these volumes and whatever here and you change them, but this is the specific thing that was made for and this mixer you can just add here. And let's say you wanted to attach this guitar onto this one, you just click inside here and you right click, assign to FX mixer 1. So you have assigned it to this one right here. And the good thing, you can also name it like guitar since you have assigned it. So every time it plays, so yeah, the FX mixer is for volume basically, but you can let's say you wanted to add an EQ onto this one, you can add an EQ onto the track, whichever you've clicked, you can add it on the master. And maybe the other thing that I forgot, you can add FX through here by pressing here FX, and you type in whichever effects that you want. Maybe the one I use mostly is the EQ, and this is how the EQ looks like. So when you play here, it has so by the way, check out I have a video about this beginners tutorial. You can also check it and supplement it with this one. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to show you how you can add your own samples right here and be able to walk through. So what I'm going to do is to open here, to open up my Windows, and I'll go to local disk C. So I have a folder here where I save my stuff, the plugin. So let's say I have a drum kit that I downloaded, a drum kit. I'll use this certain drum kit. It's from LOB. It's a free kit, so you can copy it. My bad, I cut it. So you just copy it and you go to local disk C, you go to program files, you go to Lmms, and then you go to data and you go here to samples. So this, you see here samples, you see basses, bass loops, beats, drums, and whatever. It is the same stuff that is, it is the same stuff that are here. So when I paste in here my drum kit, it won't appear here. It will only appear if I close this. and I reopen Lmms again, that's when that drum kit will appear. So that's how you add your samples. You can add a lot of samples, so that each time you're in a session and you're making music, you don't have to go here and you browse the stuff you want. That is for simplicity. So here in my samples, you see that certain drum kit is added there. So okay, yep, so you can add a lot. And for VST plugins, so there is this DSK word strings. It's a VST, and when you extract it, it has this plugin, so you can copy this DLL file, you copy it and you go back to program files. So usually when you go here in settings, file settings, Lmms has where exactly here, so it shows you where you can save your, it shows like the VST plugins are already saved in program files. See program files, VST plugins. So that's the directory where it saves all the plugins. So you're supposed to go to program files and you look for VST plugins here. So here, and you can paste. So word strings is pasted here. So when I go back to Lmms, actually let me reopen it again, and I can go here, look for VST, and I will peruse. I will look for this key word strings. I've just put that inside here, so it will open up, and this is how it looks like. Yep, that's for the VST plugins. And other things I really learned in the process to know your workflow, but otherwise that's what I had for you. And by the way, before I sign out, even instrument plugins are also put in this folder. So you see I do have Nova is like an EQ. I do have Pancake. They're all plugins that I downloaded and I put them inside here. So if I wanted to add an effect like Pancake, it's already there because it's in that folder. So you have to check here in the settings and know where Lmms keeps your VST plugins. And the same with the sound font, you can select here and put all your sound fonts there, but I prefer working like this. And for some space issues, some don't prefer putting here their samples, because like it takes the local disk C usage. But otherwise I've come to the end of this video, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that has watched. And if you're new here, consider to subscribe. My name is Arnold, and yeah, signing out. Peace.